Look what your brother did to the door. Ain't he got no pride in his home? Hey, watchers. In the spirit of Thanksgiving and sharing a meal with family and loved ones, we wanted to bring you a slice of Texas family values.
And if you think you have a hard time getting together with your family for the holidays, be thankful you weren't invited to this family's dinner table.
So hurry up chasing down tonight's main dish and drag Grandpa down the stairs for supper, because we're about to hammer our way through 1974's terrifying horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Welcome to the Midnight Watch Podcast, the show where we discuss classic, cult, and modern classic movies.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Josh Baruto, and we try to review movies that are at least 10 years old and see what kind of an impact they made or are still making on culture and the film industry. And fair warning, we're big on spoilers here.
We rate these movies in 4 categories. Number 1, the level of impact and success it had when it was released. Number 2, how relevant is it today? Number 3, our own personal enjoyment of this movie. And number 4, is it a midnight watch?
Well, I'm just going to jump the gun and say how much I really like this movie. And that's kind of a total surprise to me.
To be honest, this is one movie I picked it because I wanted you to watch it, and I knew you probably would never watch it unless just because it was. I think we're both kind of jumping the gun on this, but it took me forever to watch this movie myself. And then
you too?
Yeah, and then when I finally saw it, I was like, okay, like we got to talk about this movie. Which this movie was not on our. This movie is not on our list for this year. Like it was literally like a couple weeks ago that I was like, why? Let's do that for Thanksgiving. It'll be funny. And you were like,
right.
All right, fine. I guess we will.
Well, yeah, because I mean, and I've said this to you, numerous times. As far as subgenres of horror go, I've never been a fan of the whole, I don't know, torture porn, whatever you want to call that. Yeah. And to me, this, I don't know, it just seemed really extreme. And I remember when I was younger, seeing previews for this or just seeing the movie at the video store or the
right,
something like that, and just thinking like, oh my gosh, that's got to be the most terrifying, disgusting,
right,
gory video movie I could ever see. And so that was always just kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And so even as I really came to love the horror genre, this one was always just like, I don't think I'm ever going to watch it. I'm just not into that
right,
over the top whatever you want to call it. And it just, so yeah, but you making me watch it, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then I was just totally blown away. Just, so I watched it a few days ago and it has just been stuck in my head.
Right.
In a good way.
Right. Yeah, no joke. So yeah, we're changing up the way we do this a little bit. So we finally can remember. Josh, you, the first time you watched this, so you said a couple days ago?
Right.
Okay.
A couple days ago.
Awesome. Yeah, first time I saw this. Okay, so first time I saw this all the way through was like probably 7 months ago, because I tried to start this
so it was
movie.
Like really recent for you too.
Yeah, like I tried to watch this movie multiple times throughout this year, and I'm not gonna lie, the first 30 minutes of this movie is slow, and so the only thing that with the characters, they didn't really make me feel anything except for annoyance by Frankie, because I was just like, oh my gosh, Franklin, excuse me. I was just like,
right,
dude, that guy, excellent actor, because he annoyed the crap out of me like the entire time. I was just like, oh, Franklin.
Oh, he nailed it. That was his character.
Right. He did a great job. But anyways,
yeah.
So I literally started this movie 3 times and got a little bit farther in each time. And the last time I was like, okay, so I'm going to watch this movie and I'm just going to leave it on and I'm going to finish it because I like to watch classic movies sometimes just to see it, And
sure.
Yeah, and then the movie finally got going, and then it was over before I knew it. So for me, it's right around like the 35-40 minute mark that the movie just grabs me and didn't let go the entire time.
I got to add to that. As annoying as Franklin is at the beginning, I was really intrigued with the camera shots and just the angles he had. And it was, to me, the cinematography was actually very interesting, because in a lot of slasher movies in that time period and even well into the 80s, they're just so canned as far as how the shots are, and it's almost just like we're trying to get this out of the way so we can get onto the gruesome stuff. Yeah. And there wasn't that at all. Like he was really, I mean, there's not like a whole lot of story here, but at the same time, he's not wasting any of his shots that I felt. Right. So
no, I totally agree. Like looking back at this movie and seeing it came out at the time, like the Grindhouse films, which was like gratuitous nudity and then like over the top gore, like all X-rated movies, you know, the I don't know if they're even on the video nasty list, but like a majority of the Grindhouse flicks are like super low budget, just like shock movies. And this movie, you're right, it does, even in the first minutes, even though I didn't enjoy the first 40 minutes of this movie, like I understand though it's shot way better than a lot of those movies around that time. It's not campy. It's played very serious. And I did think that was cool. So like looking at it at the time that it came out, I appreciate the way that they decided to actually film the first half, because I actually do think it does make the second half more intense. So okay,
for sure.
Let me drop.
We should probably do the other stuff first, because
we're just jumping right into it. Now we're skipping the rest.
Cannot wait to talk about this. I know.
So dropping a little bit of info here. So it was directed by Tobe Hooper, screenplay by Tobe Hooper and Kim Henkel. The score was by Wayne Bell and Tobe Hooper, which I think is kind of funny that they actually said this movie has a score, because it doesn't actually. It's the majority of sound effects from a slaughterhouse. Which I thought worked very well. I really enjoyed that.
It's amazing. Yeah, so unsettling.
The budget was $140,000, and then the box office was $30 million. So massive, massive hit in the 70s. Because nowadays, that's a really good turnaround for your money. And back then, especially in the 70s, so $30 million, that is a massive hit. It is starring Marilyn Burns, Alan Danziger, Paul Parchian, William Vale, Terry McMinn, Edwin Neal, Jim Sadow, Gunnar Hansen, and John Dugan. So if you have heard of any of these actors, actresses, it's probably because you like the movies from around that area or that era. I didn't recognize any of these people, but did you know any of these actors?
Gunnar Hansen only because of he's famous for being Leatherface. So that's all I had. I recognize his name just from, I don't know, seeing like for different Comic-Cons or whatever, you know, people, the list of people who are going to be there, and, you know, you'd see that, or I remember coming across some articles about him. So that's it though.
Yeah, for real. Okay. We got a lot to talk about. So first, let's talk about the plot. Josh, what's the synopsis?
Here we go, folks. Sally Hardesty and her paraplegic brother Franklin and their friends Jerry, Kirk, and Pam visit the grave of the Hardesty's grandfather to investigate reports of vandalism and grave robbing. Afterwards, they decide to visit the old Hardesty family homestead. Along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker who talks about his family who worked at the old slaughterhouse. He borrows Franklin's pocket knife and cuts himself, then takes a single Polaroid picture of Franklin, for which he demands money. When they refuse to pay, he burns the photo and slashes Franklin's left arm with a straight razor. The group forces him out of the van and drive on. They stop at a gas station to refuel their vehicle, but the proprietor tells them that the pumps are empty. They continue toward the homestead, intending to return to the gas station once it has received a fuel delivery. When they arrive, Franklin tells Kirk and Pam about a local swimming hole, and the couple go to find it. They stumble upon a nearby house, and Kirk calls out for gas, entering through the unlocked door, while Pam waits outside. Leatherface, a large, mute man wearing a mask made from human skin, suddenly appears and kills Kirk with a hammer. Pam enters soon after and trips into a room filled with furniture made from human bones. She attempts to flee, but Leatherface catches her and impales her on a meat hook, making her watch as he butchers Kirk with a chainsaw. Jerry heads out to look for Pam and Kirk at sunset. He sees the house and finds Pam still alive inside a freezer. Before he can react, Leatherface kills him. With darkness falling, Sally and Franklin set out to find their friends. As they near the neighboring house and call out, Leatherface lunges from the darkness and kills Franklin with a chainsaw. Sally runs toward the house and finds the desiccated remains of an elderly couple upstairs. She escapes from Leatherface by jumping through a second-floor window and flees to the gas station. The proprietor calms her down with offers of help, but then ties her up, gags her, and forces her into his truck. He drives to the house, arriving at the same time as the hitchhiker, now revealed as Leatherface's brother. The hitchhiker recognizes Sally and taunts her. The men torment the bound and gagged Sally while Leatherface, now dressed as a woman, serves dinner. Leatherface and the hitchhiker bring down one of the desiccated bodies from upstairs, that of their grandpa. He is revealed to be alive when he sucks blood from a cut on Sally's finger. They decide that Grandpa, the best killer in the old slaughterhouse, should kill Sally. He tries to hit her with a hammer, but he is too weak. In the ensuing struggle, she breaks free, leaps through a window, and flees to the road. Leatherface and the hitchhiker give chase, but the latter is run over and killed by a passing truck. Leatherface attacks the truck with his chainsaw, and when the driver stops to help, he knocks Leatherface down with a pipe wrench, causing the chainsaw to cut his leg. The driver flees, and Sally escapes in the back of a passing pickup truck as Leatherface maniacally flails his chainsaw in the air in anger and defeat. And that is from Wikipedia.
Yet again, you know what they say. If it ain't broke, don't break it. I don't know. Right. So, anyways, straight up, I actually enjoyed this movie more after the more I looked into the making of it and seeing like Edwin Neal, the hitchhiker, him talking just normal, and then of course Gunnar Hansen talking. They're both like super chill and relaxed, and Edwin Neal does such a good job because the first time I watched the movie, I've seen his part with the hitchhiker 4 times now, or 5 times now, and I couldn't now after watching the movie all the way through the first time, the second time watching it again for us to review it, I really enjoyed actually what he was doing, and then seeing him talk in the back or in the making of it, and I was like, this guy actually is a really good actor, so I appreciated that. But I still think my favorite character, hands down, though, is the old man. He's always yelling at everybody. He's like, you do that. Don't you have any pride in yourself? Anyways, because like every 1 minute, he's like, it'll be okay. Now, hush, hush. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And then like the next second, he's yelling at somebody. I really liked his character, though, because he's a likable person. Even when he's sitting at the table and they're all talking, and they're like, or not talking, but they're all making fun of her and yelling, and he's obviously crazy too, but it's just, I don't know. I liked his character a lot, and I liked his character in the second movie a lot too. But anyways,
I agree.
So
well, actually, I can't agree. I like his character. I haven't seen the second movie, so I have no idea how he is in the second one, but
I will say real quick, I actually do want to review the second movie sometime because it is drastically different than this movie. This movie is very serious. The second movie is literally a parody of this movie. And I actually, at first I hated it the first time I saw it. And now I want to talk about it. So we'll talk about the first one first.
Right. Well, I think real quick on that, I think it's just kind of amazing that the director of the original movie would come back to parody his own movie.
Right.
Which, maybe that's done before. I just don't know about it, but that was kind of new to me that someone would do that.
Right.
Kind of cool.
I don't know that much about Tobe Hooper. I know that he was hard to work with, but he was definitely an artist. And I know that a lot of people got hurt on this movie while they were filming it. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's something to be said for a lot of low budget independent films, especially when it's a director. This is their first full movie that they're working on, which this wasn't his first movie. He had another one. Mm-hmm. Whoops. I just lost my notes.
I thought it was a short.
I think it was a full movie. He did. No, he did a short. Eggshells was an actual movie.
Was it? Okay. I thought it was a short. Yeah. So, okay.
He did a short before that called Down Friday Street.
Okay. I did not watch Eggshells. So it's kind of funny. I actually haven't seen that many movies by Tobe Hooper, even though he's hailed as like a...
Have you seen Poltergeist?
I did, but I don't know if technically that's a Tobe Hooper movie. There's a controversy about that, about Steven Spielberg stepping in and actually filming about most of the movie. So it's very like hush hush. Did Tobe Hooper actually finish it or not? Because he's walked out on movies before. So like he walked out on the movie The Funhouse and before they finished filming it, but even it's credited to him. So I know he was really hard to work with. But anyways,
yeah. What I was trying to say earlier was, as far as a lot of low budget indie films, you definitely have to work with what you got, and you really have to make everything count because your budget is so tight. Maybe you, I know like here they had such a crazy, insane, tight shooting schedule. I mean, just shooting super long hours in the, boiling heat of the Texas summer, and people passing out, and people, you have one set of wardrobe and you're not washing it, so it's just getting sweaty and nasty, and just so much of that. But it really adds to the intensity of the movie. And even when Sally is being tortured or tormented, put it that way, and she's screaming, and it's so genuine.
Right.
It is, it's crazy how you get pushed to that limit. And it's very believable, because I think she was I
think they were pushed to that limit.
She was in that state of mind. So it wasn't even really acting at that point. But yeah, all the shots, I mean, it really reminds me, I don't know, of like early Tarantino or early, Robert Rodriguez, two of my favorites, especially back in the day. But those are guys that really did some interesting stuff on their very earliest work. Right. And I feel like you could see this here, and I wanted to tie that into when we did Aliens in the last episode, or Alien rather. Mm-hmm. Ridley Scott said he was very influenced by Texas Chainsaw, and
I remember you said at the time we recorded you hadn't seen Texas Chainsaw, so you were like, I don't understand that.
Right.
What do you think now?
But actually, I feel, at least from how they made the movie and from the seriousness of the shots and the realism and whatnot, I feel like that was something that I definitely see in those two movies. Yeah. I don't see a lot of wasted shots, and it seems like there's a lot of thoughtfulness that went into each one. Yeah. And though the horror mechanism, I mean, of course they're being chased and stalked. I mean, that's just a slasher thing, or, I mean, I don't know. That was a little too obvious, but I just feel like the quality of the movie coming from two young, basically unknown directors. Right. I definitely see where that influence was, in my opinion.
Well, just think about it. So Ridley Scott, I don't think he directed anything by the time this movie came out, because this was, what was that, 5 years before this movie? Or after this movie would have made Alien.
He did The Duelist. I don't know when that one came out. I don't remember.
But it's kind of funny. This movie is really... It really does deserve itself as a horror classic, a horror staple, and a pillar of horror, because there's so many things in this movie that happens for the first time in a movie that becomes a horror trope later. And like it's really well done. It's such a cheap indie film. And the thing I love too, for a movie that's called Chainsaw Massacre, there's almost no blood in this movie, and there's almost no gore in this movie.
Yeah, and
that's crazy.
I absolutely love that. I love off-screen violence, just because if it's done correctly, your brain makes that scene so much more traumatic and intense than if there had been blood and guts everywhere.
Right. And the thing I like about this too, I actually wouldn't consider this movie torture porn. No,
not at all.
Because the reason I think Leatherface is so scary in this movie, not really in any of the other ones, but in this one, because when he shows up, then like boom, somebody's dead in like 5 seconds flat, and there's no slow like, oh no, but like the first 3 people he just kills without even trying. Then the first 4 people he kills everybody like just super quick, and the only reason, and Sally is the one that gets dragged out for like 10 minutes, I think, which is the last 10 minutes of the movie. And then she doesn't, and she makes it actually, which I like that she made that, and it made sense in the story too.
Right. No, it totally does. I mean, you got to have, I mean, that's a little bit of a trope, I guess, having a good final girl, but that's kind of what we love about these movies anyway. So she was one of the early final girls though. And so that's pretty cool, but she wasn't a hero of the movie though. She was just trying to freaking get away, and just pure survivor.
Yeah. I really like how when the truck driver shows up and she flags him down, he takes one look at Leatherface and he's like, there's no questions. He's like, I'm out.
And this dude's crazy. Let's go.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You got a big guy with a chainsaw and a mask on that just at a glance, I'm running. So like that totally makes sense. But it's funny. Some of the blood in this movie is actually real blood, though.
That's insane.
Marilyn Burns, Sally, when she's running through the bushes, that's all her blood. She got scraped up like crazy when she was running through that. And
all that brush.
Yeah, and then the dinner scene when they're gonna have Grandpa like suck the blood from her finger, that's her blood too, because the knife with the blood inside it wasn't going well, so she jerked her hand on purpose so Gunnar would cut her actual finger. And so like they actually had blood there. So I thought that was pretty intense because the guy Gunnar Hansen who plays Leatherface, he's such a nice guy in real life. Like all these people are like they're all super nice except for probably Tobe Hooper. But they're all like super nice people. Except it's funny, Edwin Neal, the Hitchhiker, he said he had such a horrible time filming that movie that he had mentioned that like he would kill Tobe Hooper on sight if he ever saw him again. Like he hates him.
Well, I know Tobe Hooper was kind of scared to run into anybody from the cast for years because they had such a bad experience together because he really pushed everyone, beyond their limits.
Right.
Which you just don't. I mean, I'm sure it still happens, but that was pretty bananas.
Oh, yeah. No, like especially the scene where Jim Sadow, the old man, gets Sally in the bag and he just is beating her with like a broom handle. Like that scene's real. Like he was like trying to like fake it. And then Toby was like, just hit her, dude. And he was like, he kept not wanting to hit her. And then Sally was finally like, just hit me. And it was a real broom handle. It wasn't like balsa wood or anything. So she actually got like bruises from that scene. So when he's going to town on her, like that's real. The scene when the Hitchhiker, he shows up and he starts beating him in front of the truck, that's real. And like,
dang.
Yeah. And the part at the end when Leatherface gets the crowbar or whatever to the face and he falls down and the chainsaw falls on his leg.
The wrench. Yeah.
Excuse me, the wrench. That scene, they had a metal plate on his leg and then they had like cow guts on top of it. And then of course, so when they cut into his leg, it cuts the cow guts and then, but it heated up the metal plate so much that it burned Gunnar in the suit and he was yelling for real. A lot of people got hurt in this movie. It's just it's crazy. But the thing is though,
but that's also, it's crazy that these actors, I mean, at first you're kind of like, oh man, they were getting abused. They kept doing it.
Oh yeah.
They kept, I mean, they were definitely dedicated to their craft in such a insane way too.
Right. Well, especially Marilyn Burns, the fact that she was yelling at Jim Sadow, she was like, just hit me. Like, let's get the scene.
Right.
That's pretty crazy. Or like,
that finger scene with Grandpa, that to me is the most disturbing scene in the entire movie.
Oh, dude. Yeah. And then like they were talking about too, how the way that he moves when he's like sucking on her finger and he looks like a little infant getting milk where like his hands are like coming up and he's like, oh, like that's creepy versus if he was just sitting there and like doing that. Like it's just creepier. They did a lot of thought into this. One thing I thought was really cool is the psychosis of Leatherface is that there's nobody behind the mask. The masks that he wears are his personalities. So he has 3 different masks in this movie, which is why when he comes out during the dinner time and he's wearing the girl mask of like, he's the homemaker right then and stuff. And so like, then there's and so I thought that was interesting. So he's supposed to be a mentally challenged person that is just, if he was born into any family, like just that area, the other people around him obviously are all, that's a sick family. And so he's just trying to like please them. He's obviously afraid of his dad and stuff. Well, I assume that's his dad. They never really say.
I think it's his brother.
The old man?
I thought so. I thought they were all brothers, but I don't know. Yeah, they're definitely either an uncle or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I definitely want to get into that too. I don't know too many movies in the 60s and 70s that handicapped people were portrayed in. I mean, looking at Franklin, his character is definitely a whiny baby, but at the same time, they, other than, helping him out of the van and whatnot, they actually treat him pretty much like one of them. They don't fully, I don't know, give into his being a baby and kind of, milking his handicap, because they just like, no, you're just one of us. You're a normal person. And having worked with disabled adults in the past, that was such a big thing for me to learn, is that they're just normal people like the rest of us. We treat them like you would anyone else.
Right.
I mean, that it's not something that you have to, you be respectful, obviously, but you don't treat them like a baby. You don't, coddle them or anything like that. I mean, they're just, one of the guys. And they kind of showed that, I thought, very well in this movie, and especially for a movie in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then also looking at, the Sawyer family, they're obviously very messed up.
Right. A lot of inbreeding there, apparently.
A lot of, and so there's some, mental disability going on. But to me, I really felt like Leatherface, I don't know, he's almost not a bad guy to me, because he's just a product of, I mean, being abused. I mean, he's, the old guys totally harping on him. Even the little brothers always yelling at him. And to me, it's like, if you were that, mentally disabled and growing up in that environment, I mean, you just,
right.
You don't want to make excuses for people, but when you're like that, you don't really have a choice. I mean, you really are going to be how you were raised. And then he seemed scared.
Right.
I feel like he's scared of the rest of the family. And like one of the earliest scenes where, I don't know if it was after he killed Pam or before he killed Pam, but he goes into the living room and he's sitting there looking out the window. And to me, I just got that vibe like he was just kind of like unsettled, like he didn't know what to do.
Right.
Like,
no, I agree.
Almost like scared. And to me, that's so amazing because he's billed as, and most people see him as one of these terrifying, he's like Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger or Michael
Myers.
Myers, thank you. He's up in that level of, insane monster, and I kind of felt bad for him. I kind of felt bad for the whole family. It's just so sad how they were, but it was just so real to me, because even the Hitchhiker, you're way better with all their actual names, but I thought because in a lot of these other slasher movies, when you have the psycho family or the psycho killer, they're just silly. Right. Like they're just, it's uncomfortable to watch because it's just bad acting, and they're just crazy. Right. And these characters, I mean, I feel like these actors really took these characters super seriously and really tried to, convey, this is how I've seen people with mental disabilities behave. Right. And I feel like they really captured that on screen. And then it was just not copied very well in other movies, since then. Yeah. At least in that genre for the next 10, 15 years or whatever. Which also makes me, I wish, for as much as this movie was copied, like the concepts from it and whatnot in other movies, I wish they would have paid attention to how Tobe Hooper made this movie. Right. I feel like it was made so well, and all they did was they just took the scary element of it and ran with it and then made a crappy movie, which I love a lot of those crappy movies. Don't get me wrong. Right. But I was shocked at what a great indie film this is. Just like I was so impressed with Alien, especially for the time period and everything, how that's made. Yeah. Blown away. No, for sure. And the thing that also is just going back to Leatherface as well, being unsure after he kills Pam. But technically, actually, the actress who plays Pam says that she believes that her character actually escaped, that she's a fighter, because you actually don't see her die. You see her on the meat hook, and then you see her like freaking out in the fridge, and you don't see her again. But versus everybody else, Franklin's actually only one person gets chainsawed in this movie. Technically, it's Franklin. And but the first two guys, they get the thing. Okay, so it's cool. They set up the kills really well. The first guy, Kirk, who gets killed, he gets hit in the head once, and they specifically talk about how the Hitchhiker, when he's in the car, talks about how you got to be really good at hitting them, because if you hit them once and they're good, but if you don't, then they start twitching, and you got to hit them again a couple times to kill them. Right. And that's exactly how Kirk dies. Is he gets hit once and his body starts spazzing out. And then Leatherface hits him again and kills him. And then the second one, Jerry comes around the corner and one hit and he's dead. And so the thing, I totally jumped things. But anyways, Leatherface, though, this is also one of the only movies where the victim scares the villain. So when Marilyn Burns, Sally is running around upstairs, and then Leatherface comes in, and she comes down the stairs, and like he looks at her, and he's yelling too, because he's like, oh, and he sees her and like jumps and then goes after her. So like that kind of really cements the idea that he's not really enjoying the chase. I would say personally, he's just like, strangers are coming into my house, I'm going to kill them, because he kills everybody. It almost felt like just defending your property, like And then, I mean, everyone does it, but to me, it definitely feels like a Southern thing where it's, get off my property, Don't you respect the door? Yeah. Oh, dude, that scene cracked me up so much, because he's in the middle of, trying to kill these people and eat them, and he's like, the door! He's freaking out about the door. Right? Oh, I love that. I do love that scene, too, because when she escapes to the barbecue, you don't know that the old man is part of the crew yet still. Yeah. And you expect Leatherface to bust in and kill him like
you keep waiting for him, and he keeps sticking his head out the door.
Like, where is he? Why doesn't he come in? Like, why wouldn't he come in?
Right, he's right behind him. Like, why did he just disappear? That's such and you think about it now, like, I mean, you know why, and that makes sense completely with his character. But at first, you're like, he's the boogeyman. Like, what did he do? Because you don't know anything about Leatherface at that time.
Right.
And so, anyways, I love that, and then I love the turn when she looks and sees the barbecue, and you realize, oh, they were eating human flesh earlier in the movie. Franklin's eating has that sausage hanging out of his mouth, and
just munching away.
Watching it a second time, that scene is so gross.
Right.
Which they delve into that more in the second movie, but yeah, I love that twist because you're just waiting, and once you realize the old man. Okay, so the first time I watched it, I didn't realize the old man was with the crew. I thought he was just a weirdo until he rolled up, and then like the hitchhiker was talking to him, and he started beating the hitchhiker, and I was like, wait a second. Okay, so they're all connected.
He knows him. Right.
That's when I was like, okay. So I don't know if I was just stupid and didn't notice that. What did you know that he was part of the family?
I was suspicious that he was, or that somehow he was definitely with them somehow. I didn't realize he was family.
Right.
But I definitely thought, well, he's obviously selling, human sausage. So, and various barbecue. So that's, he was definitely using them for his product.
Yeah.
Because he is the cook.
You're just the cook. You don't know anything. Leatherface and I do all the work. Shut your mouth. I do want to watch this movie more and just memorize the old man's lines, because the way he just yells at everybody, he's my favorite character, hands down.
He's very fun. Well, that's the thing. I feel like now that I've seen this movie, I mean, it's really been in my head, just thinking about the different elements of it. And it makes me want to rewatch it, because knowing things like the hitchhiker, going back to when they first pick up the hitchhiker, when he's talking about the slaughterhouse, like knowing generally what the movie's about, it's like, okay, he's talking about something having to do with, killing people and eating them.
Right.
And so you kind of get an idea that that's what it's setting up, but it really, really sets it up. And then when you see him later, because you already suspected that he's part of the family, because he was trying to get him to just, hey, come on down to my house.
Right.
And, put a short in the movie quite a bit. But it definitely makes me want to watch the movie again, just to see how different things tie in even more.
Right. No, absolutely. I was just thinking about this. For some reason, I saw the remake when it first came out, like a couple years after it came out, and I don't remember a lot from that movie.
Which one? The one with
Jessica Biel.
McConaughey?
Oh, yeah. We should talk about that. This movie has been remade more than it has sequels. Like, I'm not kidding. Right. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is a remake. Let's see. Then you've got, Matt McConaughey, The Next Generation. That's pretty much a remake. Then you've got the actual remake in 2003. And then you've got another movie, Leatherface. I think it's the newest one in the series that's like tells about is a prequel one. So technically, yeah, you got 3 remakes in the same series. And it's pretty crazy. Viggo Mortensen is actually in the 3rd movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's a horrible movie. But anyways, I love me some Viggo Mortensen.
Right.
I do. This is actually one of the horror movie series though where I haven't seen most of the movies. I've seen the remake. I think I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You mean the one? Yeah, you said the one with Jessica Biel.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one I've seen. I've seen like the second half of it or something. It was on at work in the break room one day.
Yeah. For some reason though, watching this movie, I didn't remember that there was a whole family. And I just kept waiting for Leatherface to show up. And so I was like, why is the hitchhiker, like, why? This is wasted time. Like, this is so stupid. And then, like, getting through the movie, and now I'm like, oh, it totally makes sense. Like you said earlier, there's not a wasted shot in this movie. They really handle the movie's not that, it's like an hour and 40 minutes long, and they handle their time very well.
Yeah. Because if that's something I've noticed in a lot of these, especially a lot of these early slasher movies and whatnot, or some of those Italian horror movies that we've been watching, there are some long, drawn out scenes just of people walking, or just, I don't know, man, they're just trying to fill up the time or something, but just very unnecessary shots, or just so much longer than they need to be. And this movie, just the pacing is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely, dude. One thing I thought was cool too is I watched it this time paying attention to it. So Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface, he could run faster than Sally, so he had to constantly do stuff to slow down so he wouldn't catch her. But I love that camera angle where it's like a dead-on camera angle and she's running and you can see him right behind her. And they do that camera angle a couple times. I just love that. Like that chase is so well crafted. Like it makes sense to why he would stop and like hack at the bushes and then keep moving. Like, because he's not like, I love that so much.
Well, it was crazy to me too, because I remember as I'm watching it, I'm like, that's a big dude, and he's running hard in the hot sun, and he's keeping up with her the whole time. So at first I was thinking, man, they must have done a lot of takes of this, because how can you not get winded? I mean, she's obviously a lot smaller, thinner. I was assuming she could, run circles around him. Then come to find out, he's already 6'4", and then he was wearing 3-inch platform heels to make himself even bigger. And he's running her down like a linebacker or something. Right.
And the thing, because they killed everybody else in this movie so fast, if he catches her, she's dead. Like, there's no drawn out. There's no him toying with her. He doesn't toy with anybody. He's just like, no, they're gone. Like, I'd say that I think Michael Myers is a scarier villain because of the whole stalking thing. But like in source of seeing somebody and then knowing like you're going to die very quickly, Leatherface hands down.
Oh yeah, and unlike Freddy, who definitely like a cat loves to play with his victims before he gets them. This is like that to me. That first kill was amazing. It was just so quick. It was just like, oh hi, blap.
Yeah, and then he slams the door,
sledgehammer to the head.
Yeah. It's such a final movement. Yeah,
so. I mean, it's just so understated. Even it was just bam, bam. He's the legs twitching and everything, which immediately you're thinking about what the hitchhiker said in the van, about not killing a cow and correctly, with the right swing, and just
and then he just drags him in and then slides the door, and the sound is so like definitely final, and you're just like kind of shocked because I swear that whole kill scene is like less than 5 seconds long. And
it's super fast, and it's so blunt, and oh man, you're just like, what? Oh my gosh! Like there was no warning, there was no, because you're like you said, they're used to other, villains, as it were, taking their time or stalking, or it's this big dramatic moment, or a jump scare or something. There wasn't a jump scare. It was just like, hey, boom, you're dead.
Right. That actually, to tell you the truth, that scene when that happened was when I was like, I got to figure out how to get Josh to watch this movie, because it was immediately different than any other slasher film I'd seen, and I was like, I see, because do you remember me telling you about this movie when I just a couple months ago? This movie was really impressed with it. Is even though there's like almost no gore and blood in it, it's tense. Very tense movie, and it holds up really well. I mean, who cares that the dead bodies don't really look real, but like it's tense though. And it's just like the part when Sally runs up, gets spooked, knows there's no way out, starts running back down, Leatherface is right there, and then she runs back up and without hesitation runs right out the window. I was just like,
insane.
I was just like, everybody in this movie actually did what actually makes sense. Because because the 4 out of 5 people get killed so fast they don't have time to react. And then Sally makes sense. She's in hysteria, that she's just trying to get away. She doesn't do anything stupid. And I thought that was pretty cool. So
that was intense. When she jumped through the window like that, I'm just like, holy crap. Yeah. And she does it twice.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. And she's like,
that was a fun fact that they actually, the script girl, the script supervisor girl, whoever, part of the crew, she ended up jumping through the window because they couldn't afford a stunt person.
Are you serious?
So they just had some girl, I think she put a wig on and then just crashed through the window, so the main actress didn't have to do it.
Oh my gosh. And then that angle of her just dropping past the tree and just like hitting the ground. And like, I know she hurt her foot. Like Marilyn Burns actually hurt her foot because she had to jump from a tree to land on the ground to get that shot, and she hurt her ankle.
Unreal.
So we got we're running out of time in this one, but
I know, man. This is such a.
Let's right now. Let's do some trivia. I'll do one. I know you got a lot of trivia on this, right?
What I put down here? I just had a ton of thoughts on it. I think I could just talk about this movie for another hour. So, just give us some trivia, and then I got a couple little thoughts here at the end.
Okay. So, according to Edwin Neal, the hitchhiker, Texas state troopers actually shook his hand and told him thank you because the crime in Texas actually dropped 18% after this movie came out.
That's right.
And basically, this is one of the first movies where people stopped hitchhiking because of this movie. Because back, in the 70s, everybody was hitchhiking. It's all love, man. And that is crazy. Because like now when you see hitchhiking, you're like, no, you could get murdered. That's like your first thought. And so that's pretty amazing. Dude, so Gunnar Hansen actually did not get along with Paul Partain, who played Franklin. And he realized later, he met him several years later, and he realized then that that Franklin was a method actor. And so they actually became like best friends and stayed best friends until the guy who played Franklin passed away.
I saw that. Yeah. Well, that was incredible.
Yeah. I thought that was just so cool. And you were talking about people smelling. Okay. So we got to talk about the dinner scene real quick.
Sure.
You mentioned briefly this movie, they shot 7 days a week, 16 hours a day in the hot Texas sun. And the dinner scene, since they had to film it all in a row because the guy who played Grandpa, they only had 3 masks for him, and he hated the makeup thing, so he was like, oh no, we're gonna do this as much as possible. Oh, you good?
Yeah, I heard a beep. I don't know what that was.
Sounded like a fire.
Might have been the fire alarm and the scared Sheldon. He just jumped off the bed.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, 16-hour days.
Grandpa, right? And Grandpa, it took so long to get his mask and makeup together,
right?
That he wanted to do it all in one take.
Yeah, he wanted to do it all in one thing, one day. And so the dinner scene that they did was a 26-hour day, and they were under hot studio lights the entire time, and the food kept like spoiling, and they had to keep replacing it, and then like to keep the scene going. And so like everybody, like the guy Gunnar Hansen, he smelled so bad because he only had one shirt to wear, his Leatherface, and it had
the entire time.
Yeah, it had been dyed, so they couldn't wash it. So that's why, like, everybody else could wash their clothes, but he couldn't wash that shirt, and so he smelled so bad that like nobody wanted to stand next to him or anything during the breaks because he just smelled so bad. But yeah, they got.
Plus, I also heard that a lot of the the guts and things that you see and the blood and whatnot that's in the shots and in the room or whatnot is actual animal blood and guts.
It is, yeah.
That they brought in, which of course is spoiling in the 120 degree weather. I mean, I can't even imagine. Plus the BO, everybody's sweating and
yeah, they were saying that, like,
which I did hear people had to leave and throw up and then come back in and finish their scene.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. That is the one thing I think that that was like one of the last things they did apparently for the movie, which probably is because if they did that was one of the first things, they probably would have not made the rest of the movie.
Right. People would have walked.
Yeah. So I got a crazy story about the film's distributor. Did you read up on that?
Remind me. I read a bunch of stuff on it, but it's kind of all jumbling together.
Okay. Quick thing here. So Tobe Hooper was trying to find somebody to distribute this, and nobody wanted to distribute it, which is kind of weird because, I guess he wanted to distribute this as a real movie, not as a grindhouse film. And so, yeah, that's why he's trying to get it actually rated, because a lot of movie theaters wouldn't they wouldn't play your movie if it wasn't unrated. Respectable theaters or whatever. So, yeah, they got one that was called Bryanston Distribution Company. Turned out to be a mafia front. Looks like you actually used the movie to launder profits he made from the porn flick Deep Throat. And then it says, in return, the production received only enough money to reimburse the investors and pay the cast and crew $405 apiece. So that's insane. So the producers eventually discovered, though, that the guy who ran that had lied to them about the film's profits. So the movie made $30 million and everybody only got paid like $405 apiece. So he majorly ripped them off. And so, it says after he was arrested on obscenity charges with his role in Deep Throat was revealed, the cast and crew filed suit against him and were awarded $25,000 each. And so then New Line Cinema, which was created in the 80s, actually they obtained the rights to the film, and now they own the rights to the franchise.
Right. I thought I heard too that they kind of made it right with the cast and crew and paid them some more money too.
It probably did, because it's such a.
I thought I saw that.
It's such a moneymaker. You could honestly, you can keep remaking that movie. People would just keep going and seeing it, because Leatherface is an iconic horror character. You don't think about him as much, but I would say he's the fourth iconic slasher. You know.
Yeah, I've definitely seen, as I was looking up artwork for this movie to put on our Instagram page. They kept popping up with him and, and the other big three,
right?
Jason, Michael, and Freddy, and he fits. I think he totally fits.
Right. Oh, I should say real quick, this movie says that it's based on a true story. It's not. It's not true at all. The only thing that's sort of true is loosely based off of Ed Gein, who was not a serial killer, only killed 2 people, but he was a grave robber. So they clearly said that like Leatherface and the Hitchhiker are grave robbers. And then that one scene where Pam falls in and there's like furniture made out of human bones and flesh. That is actually from Ed Gein. He had done a lot of that stuff in real life. But everything else, the Sawyer family, actually the whole chainsaw thing in Leatherface didn't happen. So, anyways.
Which is crazy because people swear that it did. Or I guess people would go up to Gunnar Hansen all the time being like, yeah, man, my uncle's in prison because... he's the real this or that, or he knows the real, and really? Gunnar every time it had to be like, yeah, no, it's none of that's real.
Right. So I thought this was interesting. It was the biggest grossing independent film until Halloween, which came out 4 years later.
Wow.
And then one of the crew members, Dorothy Pearl, this is gross, accidentally injected herself in the leg with formaldehyde while preparing one of the props. You know how gross that is? Oh. Anyways, let's see here. I think that's about it actually that I've got. I mean, I do have a lot more trivia, but I think that's about it for the main things that I wanted to talk about on this.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about the last scene of the movie is really cool. Well, that and he's swinging around, Leatherface is swinging that chainsaw around.
It's iconic.
Like a temper tantrum. And it was blowing my mind. That's a real chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's not a prop. That is a real dangerous chainsaw that he's swinging around. Apparently he almost killed Tobe Hooper when he was swinging it around, as Tobe was getting that shot. And even other times in the movie, I guess, with the chainsaw. I mean, they were really swinging that around the other actors.
Wow.
Which is insane that you would do that. I mean, that gives me chills knowing that was, real and they were swinging that around. But
yeah.
That last scene, it's so iconic. And then just having that hard cut at the end, just boom, and then straight to the credits. I mean, the finality of it, man, that was enjoyable, right? I mean, just boom to the last drop. It was. I
like this movie has.
Thank you for making me watch this movie.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes. The half of this podcast goal for me is to make Josh watch movies that he probably wouldn't watch. I think this is the second one. The first one was Psycho, and this is the second movie where you just never got around to seeing them.
Right. Yeah, Psycho for sure. I just kept just never got around. And this one, I had no intention of really ever watching it. I mean, maybe I would have eventually, or if somebody had it on, I would have watched it. But I was not that excited until you told me, "Hey, man, this is actually an indie film." Mm-hmm. And the fact, and the other thing you told me was just that, it's actually not that gory. You think it is,
right?
And that's what totally got me, because watching the little trailers for it when I was younger and whatnot, I'm like, oh, this is going to be super disgusting. I'm just not into that. And a lot of people thought it was too.
Right.
That's what what the movie is. And then you watch it and you're like, man, if you turned off the sound, I could see where they would almost get that PG rating on a lot of it, because there's so much is off screen, and that grinding, that sound of
the slaughterhouse
you would hear at a slaughterhouse. Yeah. I mean, there's a few songs that they had to get the license for, just, whatever songs were on the radio at the time, but man, so intense, just grinding on you, grating on you. I mean, that's what makes it so uncomfortable and scary, if you will. Yeah.
I would dare say I don't think there's any jump scares in this movie.
I think there is. I feel like when he gets Franklin
Yeah,
like
I
you
can
know
see that.
something's about to happen, and that one still kind of made me jump, and I was just like, oh, that's cool. That was a good one because again, I knew something was going to happen the way they were wandering around, and it still is just boom, and then there he is, just he's on Franklin, and again with that super quick kill.
Right. So yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, like, there's one jump scare that 100% works, and because I normally hate jump scares, but like this one actually it makes sense that it works. So
right.
I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that we want to discuss before we go into the final verdicts?
I mean, other than the fact that we could just keep talking about this movie.
There is a lot to discuss. This movie is brilliant, and the thing is, it's funny too. Like I actually think the movie works better because it doesn't have hardly any blood or gore in it. It makes
100%.
It just I don't know. It's more artsy that way for sure. But
that's what constantly gets me is that it's just such a well-made movie. It's a really, if you're a fan of good cinematography, this does it. I mean, just these great shots of like looking into the car from like when they're just sitting around. Yeah. In the car, but it's not moving, and just the way it'll like come up, the camera will come up and look in through the window. Just there's not a lot of jerky, hard close-ups or hard, panning back or anything like that you see in a lot of, I don't know, other kind of schlocky movies.
Yeah.
And because you would think this would be the perfect, Roger Corman kind of grindhouse kind of movie, right? The way the content would be, and it's just not. It's so interesting to watch, right? And and
then like after this movie came out, then you've got like they put the word massacre in as many movies names as possible, and so
right.
And Slumber Party Massacre, Sorority House Massacre.
Right.
What?
I'm watching this. Watching this one called. Is it Torso? Is that what I'm watching right now? It's another '80s movie that came out about in '83 or something like that. Come on, Tubi, don't fail me.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Load up.
I haven't seen that one.
Pieces. No,
Pieces.
I did watch Torso. But the one I'm watching right now is Pieces, which is specifically about another maniac who is chainsawing these girls up into pieces so he can build the perfect woman.
Is it as good as this movie?
Not even close. I mean, like I was saying earlier, it's one of these really, it's just bad. I mean, they obviously were kind of borrowing a lot of the concept from this movie, especially the chainsaw part. It's a fun movie. This is a great movie to watch like with a group of friends and just, that's kind of what you do. That's how why horror movies are so fun.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not knocking that movie Pieces, but it's just, oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a B movie. This is not a B movie. Yeah. This is a legit piece of art.
I agree. No, I totally agree. This is not a B movie. And I think that's one of the things that really stands this movie apart from all the other slasher films. And is that, I mean, not all of them. Like even the first Halloween is not a B movie, in my opinion. But anyways, so let's roll into final verdicts. So
let's do it.
You think that this movie hit what it was going for when it came out?
Oh, absolutely. I think that was a grand slam when it came out. So I give it an A for relevance when it came out. I give it an A plus. I think actually it made $30 million off of $140,000 budget. Like that's absolutely, that's insane. And do you think it's still relevant now? Yeah. I mean, as a cult classic, I don't know, even just as a general classic, I don't know. I guess I would give it an A. It still rates really high when people rank this movie. That's a good point. People do rank this movie still really high. I mean, I wouldn't give it less than a B. I'll put it that way. I was going to give it a B, but you're right. It does. It's just better than a lot of other classic horror movies. And I mean, it's serious. So you can't compare Nightmare on Elm Street to the. Well, I mean, I guess you can because the first Nightmare on Elm Street is supposed to be serious. So, anyways, I'll give it a B plus for is it still relevant today? Because I would definitely recommend this movie. If you have not seen this movie, guys, watch this movie. Just get comfortable. Watch this movie. It starts off slow, but then once it gets going, it doesn't let up. This is way more tense than most old school horror movies that I've seen.
and that really impressed me. It's 2020, and this movie is still super tense.
Oh, incredibly.
Yeah. So that kind of goes right into our next one. Personal enjoyment, Josh.
Personal enjoyment. Yeah, man. I got to give it an A. I got to give it an A. I was shocked, like, how much I was enjoying it. I was just, oh, man, it's so good. And then, like I said, I kept thinking about it, and I'm still thinking about it. And I kept adding to my notes after the fact of just things that jumped out to me and just like, oh, there's that and there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it an A. I'll watch it again for sure.
I'm glad you liked it, man. Yeah, I think for personal enjoyment, I got to give it a B. Definitely, it's a classic. It's halfway through the movie is when it starts for me. So, yeah, I gave it a B, and I think that's being a little generous for me, but definitely a classic. So, yeah, is it a midnight watch?
So, like we've said in the past with other movies, I think there's definitely sequences in this movie. If it was on, I would definitely want to watch it, but I can't say that it's a midnight watch for me. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, not every movie we love can be a midnight watch. We'll delve into that subject actually a little bit more next year.
Yes,
and kind of really show people how we consider things to be a midnight watch, or what that really means to us, at least here on the show. Which that does remind me. For me, it's not a midnight watch either. It's a great film, excellent film, just not a midnight watch for me either. But after this episode, we have one more episode that for this year, and then we're going to be taking a break for the rest of December. And since I'm having a baby right around then, and then Mazel tov. Yeah. Oh, thank you. And and then we're going to come back strong in January. So we've got lots of great ideas, lots of ways to kick off the 2021. Hopefully 2021 in season 2. Season 2. Yes, more twists and turns like never before. We're going to have a lot more guests on the show. I know this year we didn't really have hardly any. But next year, it's going to be slam-packed, I think. And we're going to bring up a lot of new stuff. So we're really excited about that. So, yeah, our next episode is going to be we should make it a big deal. It's going to be our Christmas episode. So, yes, it is. Yeah, it's the finale and it's the Christmas episode. Right. If you were in Britain, if you were in England, it would be the Christmas special. So, anyways. So thank you guys so much for listening for this episode. If you enjoyed it, watch the movie too. Yeah. But hey, did you watch this movie on Tubi? I did. Okay. I love Tubi. Tubi is like one of the best free movie watching apps of all time. If you like horror movies, if you like old school horror movies, 100%. Yes. Yeah, seriously. But there's actually a fair amount of like newer-ish ones too. It's surprising. Yeah, no, they keep adding to it. It's a really good app. I watched it on Tubi as well. Actually, I want to give a shout out real quick to Shudder though. I was recently got Shudder again. Very surprised at their movies. They're really up in the game too. It's actually becoming a pretty good streaming service as well, and that Texas Chainsaw is on that as well. So, cool. Yeah, special thanks to our sound producer Jake Colvin. I think that's about it, Josh. Hey, where can they listen to these podcasts? Well, Jeremy, let me tell you. Obviously, we'd love for you to check it out on Apple Podcasts. That's probably where it's our flagship. I think it is kind of our flagship spot. A majority of you seem to listen on that. We'd love it if you take a minute, write out a couple lines of a review. Would be awesome. Give us 5 stars. That would totally help us out with the algorithm to hopefully get this podcast showing up in other people's feeds. Or if you like this, if you like that podcast, you might like the Midnight Watch. So it would help us out to get some more exposure. So we'd love some good reviews. We're also on just about every other platform you can think of. Check us out on Facebook, on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you there. And then of course you can email us at themidnightwatchpodcast@gmail.com. And I just want to say also, I know this isn't our last episode for this year, second to last episode, but thank you so much to everybody who's been listening and been supporting the show. We've really been feeling the love from you people, and we really appreciate it a lot. And we're excited that people actually like to listen to us talk about movies, because we do this anyways. We just thought, hey, I know, we might as well record it. I mean, literally years. That's what we would do. One of us would call the other person and be like, dude, you see this movie? And we just got to talk about it.
So yeah, but
much to the annoyance of spouses and girlfriends before then.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you guys so much for everything. You have a fantastic week. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. All right, you guys have a fantastic week. And as always, keep up the watch.